So what is it that turns a simple promise into a deal that the law will actually enforce? I mean, we make agreements all the time, right? From buying a coffee to clicking I agree on some website. But what's the actual legal spark that forges a real contract? Well, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with a classic. Picture this. You're walking down the street and you see a laptop in a shop window. Price tag says £500. You walk in, cash ready. Does that shop have to sell it to you for that price? Now, you probably think the answer is obvious, but trust me, contract law has a pretty surprising twist here. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what's going on.
All right, to solve our laptop puzzle, we first need to understand the basic recipe for a contract. And it really is like a recipe, like baking a cake. If you miss even one of these key ingredients, the whole thing just falls apart. So every single valid contract needs these four things: an offer, someone's acceptance of that offer, an intention from everyone to be legally bound, and something of value being exchanged, what lawyers call consideration. All four are absolutely crucial, but for today, we're really going to zero in on the first two, that intricate little dance of offer and acceptance.
And this is where that whole laptop scenario starts to make a lot more sense. It all comes down to the very first step. Because, as it turns out, not everything that looks like an offer is a legal offer. Sometimes it's just an invitation to start talking.
The law makes a really important distinction here. An offer is a clear take it or leave it kind of proposal. If the other person says yes to those exact terms, boom, you've got a deal. But an invitation to treat is much, much softer. It's basically the legal way of saying, hey, I'm open for business. Want to make me an offer? It's not the deal itself. It's just kicking off the negotiation.
And we see these invitations literally everywhere. That advertisement in a magazine, that's an invitation. The clothes on display in a shop, also an invitation. Even the stuff on a supermarket shelf. In the eyes of the law, these are all just businesses inviting you, the customer, to come to them and make an offer to buy their stuff. And that brings us right back to our laptop. That £500 price tag in the window, it isn't the shop's offer to you. It's their invitation for you to walk in and offer them £500. And this is so important because it means the shop has the power to either accept or reject your offer. So weirdly enough, no, they don't actually have to sell it to you. Okay, now just when you think you've got the rule figured out, the law loves to throw in a curveball. There is one major exception where an advertisement can be treated as a binding offer, and it's called a unilateral contract. Think of it as a promise in exchange for an action. You don't accept by saying, I agree, you accept by actually doing the thing. The most famous case for this involved a company that advertised a reward for anyone who used their carbolic smoke ball and still got the flu. Well, someone did exactly that. And the court said, yep, that ad was a binding offer to the entire world, and she accepted it just by following your instructions. The company had no choice. They had to pay up.
All right, so let's say a proper legally sound offer is now on the table. What happens next? The ball is officially in the other person's court, and they've got a few ways they can play it. And this is a really critical difference. Let's say someone offers to sell you a car for £10,000, and you say, how about £9,000? That's a counteroffer. And as the classic case of Hyde v. Wrench shows, making a counteroffer legally destroys the original $10,000 offer. It's gone. You can't change your mind an hour later and try to accept it. But if you just ask, would you ever consider taking less? Well, that's just an inquiry. The original offer is still alive and well, waiting for you to accept or reject it. Now let's talk about a classic business headache. Company A sends a purchase order with their terms on the back. Company B replies with an invoice that has its own, completely different terms. So whose rules actually apply? This is what lawyers famously call the battle of the forms. And here is the powerful legal idea that usually settles it. The courts have basically said that the last set of terms that was sent and received without any objection before the deal went ahead, those are the terms that count. It's all about who gets that last shot in. And trust me, this is a huge deal because those terms dictate everything from when you get paid to who's on the hook if it all goes wrong. So we've worked our way through offers, counteroffers, and invitations. Now let's get to the magic moment, acceptance. When is the deal officially, legally sealed? Well, the answer totally depends on how you're communicating. There's this old school postal rule from the days of snail mail, which says a deal is formed the second you post the letter of acceptance. The risk is on the person who made the offer to begin with. But for all the instant stuff we use today, email, text, phone calls, the rule is the exact opposite. Acceptance only counts when the message is actually received. It's a massive distinction in our digital world.
But what if you make an offer and then you get cold feet? Can you just change your mind and take it back? This brings us to the rules of revocation, or in plain English, withdrawing an offer.
So the rule is pretty simple on the surface. You can absolutely withdraw an offer at any point before it's been accepted. But, and this is the big one, that withdrawal only works once the other person actually knows about it. If they haven't been told you've changed your mind, then, as far as the law is concerned, that offer is still live. And this case illustrates the rule perfectly. On October 1st, an offer was put in the mail. A week later, on the 8th, a letter withdrawing that offer was also mailed. But, and here's the key, before that withdrawal letter even arrived, the original offer landed on the desk, and it was accepted by telegram on October 11th. The court's decision was crystal clear. A binding contract was formed on October 11th. Why? Because the acceptance happened before the withdrawal was ever communicated. That second letter, showing up 9 days later, was just too little too late. It really proves the point. In contract law, timing and communication are absolutely everything. And all of these rules are guided by one huge idea, what's called the objective approach. It basically means the courts aren't in the business of reading minds. They don't care what you were secretly thinking or what your private intentions were. They just look at what was actually said and done and ask, from the outside, what would a reasonable person think the deal was? In other words, your actions speak way louder than your secret thoughts. So next time you tap your card for a coffee, bid on something online, or even just put an item in your shopping basket, just think about this little dance of offer and acceptance. You're taking part in a legal process that's been built up over hundreds of years. So the real question to leave you with is, how many contracts have you already made today?